The storm hit Wyoming like it had been waiting all year just to prove a point. By late afternoon, Interstate 80 wasn't a road anymore, it was a rumor buried under snow. Wind howling so hard it made even trucks look like they were standing still out of respect for something bigger than them. Graves was already on the road when the weather turned. 6'4", gray beard frozen at the edges. Leather vest pulled tight over layers of thermal gear. His Harley wasn't supposed to survive conditions like this. And neither was he, according to anyone with common sense. But Graves didn't ride for common sense. He rode because someone had called the Iron Hollow MC dispatch line with a voice that kept breaking in and out. Car off the road, white SUV. Someone inside, please. Then nothing. Just wind and silence. Now the highway was gone beneath him. Snow hit his face like fists. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Even the sound of his engine felt swallowed by the storm. Behind him, 2 riders tried to follow, but Graves raised his hand once. Too dangerous. He went alone, because he had heard something in that voice. Not fear, but time running out. A mile marker sign appeared briefly, then vanished again in whiteout conditions. Graves slowed. Then he saw it. A shape, half buried in snow off the shoulder of the road. A white SUV tilted sideways like it had been pushed off the world itself. No lights, no movement. Graves pulled over immediately, boots crunching into deep snow that swallowed his legs halfway to the knee. He reached the driver's door, locked. He hammered once, twice nothing. Then, a faint knock from inside. Graves froze. Someone was still alive. He leaned in closer and heard it. A child's voice. Help. Part 2. Exposing the ice-cold truth. Graves didn't hesitate. He didn't have time to. He stomped back to his Harley, popping the saddlebag and pulling out a heavy, steel-forged tire iron. The wind screamed, trying to push him over. But Graves planted his boots, raised the iron, and brought it down hard on the rear passenger window. Crash. The glass shattered, the sound instantly swallowed by the storm. He cleared the jagged edges with his heavy leather gloves and reached inside. Unlocking the door, when he pulled it open, the dome light flickered weakly, revealing the grim reality of the situation. In the back seat, shivering violently under a thin jacket, was a little girl no older than 8. In the driver's seat slumped a man, unconscious, a dark bruise blooming across his forehead where it had struck the steering wheel. "Hey," Graves rumbled, his voice surprisingly gentle for a man of his size. "I got you. You're safe." "My dad," the girl whispered, her teeth chattering so hard she could barely form the words. "The flashing lights. They hit us. They pushed us off the road." Graves frowned. The dispatch call hadn't said anything about a crash with an emergency vehicle. "Who pushed you off, kid?" "The police car. The one with the big star." She pointed a trembling finger toward her father's coat pocket. "Dad said we had to get the files to the state troopers in Cheyenne. He said Sheriff Miller was going to stop us." It clicked. The pieces fell into place like a heavy vault door slamming shut. The highway closure. An hour ago, the county had completely barricaded I-80, pulling all the off the road entirely and citing the blizzard as the reason. But locals knew I-80 had stayed open in worse. Sheriff Miller had ordered the closure, isolating this exact stretch of road. He hadn't shut down the highway to save lives. He had shut it down to bury one. He used the whiteout conditions to run this SUV off the road, knowing the storm would freeze them before morning and erase all the evidence of the collision. Graves checked the father's pulse. It was weak, but steady. He reached into the man's coat pocket and pulled out a thick, waterproof hard drive. The evidence. "All right, little one," Graves said, unzipping his heavy leather riding jacket and the thermal layer beneath it. "You're going to tuck right in here against my chest. It's going to be loud, but I promise you, the cold won't get you." He wrapped her securely in his layers, ensuring she was shielded from the biting wind. He couldn't take the father on the bike, but he couldn't leave him to freeze either. Graves pulled an emergency thermal blanket from his saddlebag, wrapping the unconscious man tightly, and wedged a chemical heat pack against his chest. "I'm coming back with an ambulance for him," Graves promised the girl. "But first, we have a delivery to make." Graves swung his massive frame over the Harley. The engine roared to life, a defiant beast in a world of white. The ride back was agonizing. The wind tore at them, but Graves rode with a singular, terrifying focus. He didn't just have a life to save now. He had a score to settle. Part 3. Reckoning at the Way Station. 10 miles down the road was the County Line Way Station, currently acting as an emergency shelter for stranded motorists and the command center for the highway patrol. When Graves finally kicked the kickstand down, his bike was caked in a thick layer of ice. He marched through the howling wind and kicked the double doors of the way station open. The room went dead silent. Dozens of stranded drivers, state troopers, and county deputies turned to look. Standing in the doorway was a 6 feet 4 inches frozen titan, snow melting off his scarred face, his eyes burning like coals. And standing right in the center of the room, holding a cup of coffee and playing the concerned public servant, was Sheriff Miller. "Graves," Miller said, his face draining of color, "the road is closed. You can't be out there." Graves didn't say a word to him. He unzipped his jacket, gently lifting the shivering little girl out and handing her to a shocked paramedic, rushing over with a blanket. Then Graves walked straight past Miller, approached the state trooper captain, and slammed the waterproof hard drive onto the folding table. "You've got a man bleeding out in a white SUV at mile marker 112. Get a plow and an ambulance out there right now," Graves growled, his voice carrying through the quiet room. He slowly turned his head to lock eyes with Miller, who was already taking a step backward toward the exit. "And while you're at it, Captain," Graves added, pointing a heavy, leather-clad finger at the sheriff, "might want to arrest the man who ran them off the road and shut down the interstate to cover his tracks. The proof is right there on that drive." Miller bolted for the door, but he didn't make it 2 steps before 3. State troopers tackled him to the linoleum floor. Graves watched them slap the cuffs on the corrupt sheriff. His hands were numb. His bones ached with the deep cold, and his Harley was probably going to need a full rebuild. But as the little girl looked up from her blanket, shivering smile, the 6 feet 4 biker knew it was the best ride of his life.